Good afternoon. Hope you are doing well. I'm getting very excited because two things are coming closer day by day. One is, of course, Diwali, and the second is CAT. So I hope things are going great on both counts for you. So we have been discussing a lot of CAT papers, and now we are back to the recent CAT papers. This time we are doing the latest, the freshest, and the best CAT 2019. We've already had one session where we completed the reading comprehension of the first slot, and today we are going to do the verbal of the first slot, and along with that, some bonus questions, right? So let's kick off, guys. Hi, I'm Munira Lokhandwala, and I'm Calcutta alumna, a serial 100 percentile in the CAT and a 99 percentile in the GMAT. I also have a CAT verbal book published by Wiley and available on Amazon. You can find me on the Unacademy YouTube Crack Cat channel. You can also find me taking a lot of special classes and plus classes on the Unacademy app, guys. So पहले तो आपको जाके प्ले स्टोर में Unacademy ऐप को सर्च करना है, डाउनलोड करना है, इंस्टॉल करना है. And within that, if you see, I'm taking special classes where we are looking at jump starting your quant percentile. So making a big difference to your quant percentile, right? And I'm also doing sessions on LRDI starting from Wednesday, where we are going to start off with some easy LRs in the beginning and then just make it fun with a lot of interesting sets on arrangements. Right? So these are some things that are upcoming from me, and of course there are other numerous great educators that are also doing their special classes and plus classes. So go to the Unacademy app, take CAT as the goal, and subscribe to the plus course. We have close to 120, 200 educators, guys. So 100, 120 are just in the math section. We have 200 educators for the CAT course itself. A lot of them have taken the CAT. They have got great percentiles. Some of us have even got 100 percentile. And we have faculty with at least around 10 years of work experience. So you get a lot of choice in which faculty to learn from, right? Besides that, we are also running the National Scholarship Test. So this Sunday, which is the 15th of November, we are going to run a test on LRDI, and that is from 5 to 5:40. It's only one section, it's only 40 minutes. And if you are in the top 50, you get vouchers worth up to 5,000. So just look at the return on investment. You put 40 minutes of your time and you can end up with 5,000 rupees. That's more than 100 rupees per minute. Isn't that great, right? So please go ahead, guys, enroll and register for this test. Take it. Already we have had 4 such tests conducted where, starting from 18th October, we have had 2 math section. We have had 1 LRDI already, 1 verbal already. And the next LRDI, as I said, is coming up. So 200 बच्चों ने तो अपने अपने voucher ले लिए हैं. You don't miss out on it. Enroll as soon as you can, right? So great, guys. Another reason, as I said, is we are doing the CAT 2021 absolute batch. Wednesday, say I'm going to start off with LRDI every Monday to Friday from 7:30 to 9. Right? Please be there where we'll do a lot of interesting sets, right? So great, guys. With subscription to go for, we can talk towards the end of the session. You can use my code Munira10 to get a great discount, right? So let's start off with our bonus puzzle. We want to show that ABC is a multiple of 60. Whenever you have a Pythagorean triplet of positive integers, they should be all integers, then the product of the 3 numbers is always a multiple of 60. So let's start off with some basic triplets that we know. 3, 4, 5, the smallest one, in fact, multiplies to give you exactly 60. Right? If you go a little aage, the next one, 5, 12, 13, is 60 into 13, multiple of 60. 8, 15, 17 is 60 into 34, multiple of 60, sorry. So all of these are multiples of 60. Can we prove this? Okay, so let's start off. So whenever you have to prove something like this, right, you always try and do something like, okay, if two of them are not, the third one has to be. So we'll start off with both A and B are not multiples of 3. Then what happens? Can we show that then C has to be a multiple of 3? If we can, then I can say that ABC is a multiple of 3. Similarly, I'll show for 4. Similarly, we'll show for 5, right? So let's look at how to go about it. So first of all, when I divide by 3, a number can leave 3 possible remainders, either 0 or 1 or plus 2, which I'd like to write as minus 1. So when I square it, a square can either leave remainder 0 with respect to 3 or 1 or 1. So with respect to 3, right, the remainders of any perfect square, the remainder is either 0 or 1. So let's say both A and B are not multiples of 3. Okay, so they are both non-multiples of 3. So A square will leave remainder 1 with respect to 3. B square will also leave remainder 1 with respect to 3. So A square plus B square will leave remainder 2 with respect to 3. Now if the remainder 2 is 3, the remainder with respect to 3 is 2, can it be a perfect square? All perfect squares leave either 0 or 1. So I cannot have a perfect square leaving remainder 2 with respect to 3. That means both of them being non-multiples of 3 is not possible. Out of A comma B, at least 1 will be a multiple of 3. Okay, so yellow out of 60, right? 60 is made up of 3, 4, 5. We have already proven 3. Now we need to prove 4 similarly. So we'll do the same thing. 4 ke saath, what kind of numbers can we have? Either 4k or 4k plus 1 or 4k plus 2 and 4k plus 3 we will write as minus 1. So when we square it, either a number is a multiple of 4 or leaves remainder 1, or इसको भी square करेंगे तो ये भी multiple of 4 हो जाएगा or leaves remainder 1. So 4 के साथ भी a square can only leave remainder 0 or 1. So if both A and B are not multiples of 4, that means the remainder with respect to not multiples of 2, let's say even number, right? So if they are both odd, then they will leave remainder 1 with respect to 4, which means your square will leave remainder 2 with respect to 4. Again, this is not possible because 4 के साथ भी 0 है या 1 है. Okay, so A comma B में से एक 3 होगा and similarly A comma B में से एक 4 का multiple भी जरूरी है. Okay, so definitely ABC is a multiple of 12. Now we will check for 5. So 5 के साथ what kind of remainders are possible? Any number with respect to 5 is either 5k or 5k plus 1 or 5k plus 2 or 5k plus 3, which I will write as minus 2, or 5k plus 4, which I will write as minus 1. Okay, so when I square this, either you get a multiple of 5 or you get remainder 1 or you get remainder 4 or you get remainder 4 or you get remainder 1. So these are the remainders with respect to 5, 0, 1, 4. Okay, now if both A and B are not multiples of 5, then there are 3 possibilities. Either A and B both have remainder 1 or both have remainder 4 or one has 1 and one has 4. This gives remainder 2 with respect to 5, not possible. This gives remainder 3 with respect to 5, not possible. This gives remainder 0 with respect to 5, so possible. That means कि अगर A, B में से कोई 5 का multiple नहीं है तो C definitely is a multiple of 5. जैसे हमने देखा, right, कि 3, 4, 5. कि 3 और 4 नहीं है तो 5 फिर निकल आया. So keeping that in mind, guys, we can show that A, B, C में से कोई एक 5 का multiple भी होगा, and hence the answer is going to be of the product, right? Will be a multiple of 60. Great. Okay, let's look at verbal questions now. So this is para jumbles where we actually have to come up with the order. This is a theta question. People with dyslexia and example. Oops. And example. Mind reading looks increasingly like print reading, like mind reading. So there are hints here. ये भी example है. So now we'll read this carefully. People with dyslexia have difficulty with print reading, and people with autism spectrum disorder have difficulty with mind reading. An example of a lost cognitive instinct is mind reading, our capacity to think of ourselves and others as having beliefs, desires, thoughts, and feelings. So 2 has to come before 1. You will first define mind reading before you actually use mind reading in a sentence this casually. So mind reading looks increasingly like literacy, a skill we know for sure is not in our genes, since scripts have been around for only 5,000, 6,000 years. Okay, तो ये genetic कोई चीज genetic होने के लिए it should be there, right, in our gene pool for a longer time. 5,000, 6,000 years don't count, right? So print reading, like mind reading, varies across cultures. So definitely there is a 3-4 link also. Okay. Across cultures depends heavily and is subject to developmental disorders, and these disorders are mentioned in 1. So 3-4 के बाद 1 आएगा, and 2 has to start because it gives us an introduction to mind reading. This whole thing is about mind reading, right? So answer here, best answer is 2, 3, 4 and 1. So an example makes you feel as if this may not start, but this actually starts, correct? Then you talk about mind reading in each of the other sentences. So great, guys. Next. If you have seen a little line of text, the problem with these algorithms, if you have just bought a gardening book for your cousin. Now, when you say these algorithms, which algorithms you talk about? Right? So let's find out. If you just bought a gardening book, collaborative filtering. So now we'll read all of this properly. If you've seen a little line of text that says something like customers who bought this also enjoyed that, you've experienced this collaborative filtering firsthand. Or collaborative filtering we can see is introduced here. So let's see कि 4-1, does that make sense? You start off by defining collaborative filtering. Okay. So collaborative filtering is a mathematical algorithm by which correlations and co-occurrences of behavior are tracked and then used to make recommendations. Yeah, so 4-1 clearly works. Then the problem with these algorithms is that they don't take it into account a host of nuances and circumstances that might interfere with their accuracy. If you've just bought a gardening book, you might get a flurry of links to books about gardening recommended just for you. The algorithm has no way of knowing you hate gardening and only brought the book as a gift. So 4-1 के बाद the algorithm has to continue with 1. So 2 follows 1. And then 3 gives examples of 2. So answer here is 4-1, 2-3. Right? Great. Next, Apna, type in the answer. We all live under mob rule until then, which doesn't help anyone. Until when? Perhaps we need to learn to condense the feedback we receive online so that 100 replies carry the same weight as just 1. As we grow more comfortable with social media conversations, being part of the way we interact every day, we are going to have to learn how to deal with legitimate criticism. Okay, so a new norm will arise where it is considered unacceptable to reply with the same point that dozens of others have already made. Okay, so clearly 3 has to begin. And when will you live under mob rule? Right? Till when? Till this new norm is developed. So 4-1 का link है, 3 has to begin. So 2 कहाँ पे आएगा? Will it come after 4-1? Will it come before 2? Before 4-1. It's like an LR question, right? So we need to condense the feedback we receive online. Right? So ये 3 के बाद आएगा 2. So 3, 2, 4 and then 1. This is your right order. Next, metaphors may map to similar meanings across languages, but their subtle differences can have a profound effect on our understanding of the world. Latin scholars point out carpe diem is a horticultural metaphor that, particularly seen in the context of its source, is more accurately translated as plucking the day, evoking the plucking and gathering of ripening fruits or flowers, enjoying a moment that is rooted in the sensory experience of nature, unrelated to the force implied in seizing. Okay, the plucking and gathering, they're saying, comes from agricultural background, and it is not seizing. Seize the day, seize gives a more forceful meaning than plucking. The phrase carpe diem, which is often translated as seize the day and its accompanying philosophy, has gone on to inspire countless people in how they live their lives and motivates us to see the world a little differently from the norm. It is an example of one of the more telling ways that we mistranslate metaphors from one language to another, revealing in the process our hidden assumptions about what we really value. So ये start ये see ये 1 and 4, they're generalizations. And these generalizations also have conclusions. So where is this generalization coming from? From the specific case of carpe diem. So 3, 2 has to start off. This explains it, and this tells us, right, how we have misinterpreted it. Phil, you come up with conclusions, correct? It's an example, may map to similar meaning, but there can have a profound effect. So 4 ke baad 1 is a better conclusion. So answer here is 3, 2, 4, 1. Great, let's look at some para summaries. Vance Packard's The Hidden Persuaders alerted the public to the psychoanalytical techniques used by the advertising industry. Its premise was that advertising agencies were using depth interviews to identify hidden consumer motivations, which were then used to entice consumers to buy goods. Critics and reporters often wrongly assumed that Packard was writing mainly about subliminal advertising. Packard never mentioned the word subliminal, however, and devoted very little space to discussions of sub-threshold effects. Instead, his views largely aligned with the notion that individuals do not always have access to their conscious thoughts and can be persuaded by supraliminal messages without their knowledge. Okay, so the word subliminal, right, is below the threshold. Okay, so he didn't spend too much time with that. Instead, he's saying that people do not have access to their own thoughts, and hence, without even their knowing, they can be persuaded by some supraliminal messages. Okay, so argued that advertising as a hidden persuasion understands the hidden motivations of consumers and works at the subliminal level on the subconscious level of the awareness. तो ये subconscious नहीं है यहाँ पे. We do not have access to this. So A is gone. Held that advertising understands the hidden motivations and works at this level. So the people targeted have no awareness. This is great. It's not getting subconscious and all these other words. Packard held that advertising as a hidden persuasion builds on people's conscious thoughts and awareness by understanding the hidden motivations of consumers and works at the subliminal level. Again, are we understanding the hidden motivations that easily? Right? Are we building on conscious thoughts? No, people are not aware. They don't have access to their conscious thoughts. So answer is option. Sorry, option 3 can be eliminated. Packard argued works at the wherein very fine, wherein the people targeted are aware. No, we are not aware without their knowledge. So 4 is also wrong. So answer is option 2. A distinguishing feature of language is our ability to refer to absent things known as displaced reference. A speaker can bring distant reference to a mind in the absence of any obvious stimuli. कि अगर सामने मुझे आइसक्रीम नहीं है तो भी I can think about ice cream, right? Thoughts not limited to the here and now can pop into our heads for unfathomable reasons we can't understand. This ability to think about distant things necessarily precedes the ability to talk about them. So before we think about them, we need to talk about them, right? A prerequisite for the emergence of human-like meaningful symbols is that the mental categories they relate to can be invoked even in the absence of immediate stimuli. Right? कि human symbols ऐसे हैं कि even without their presence, we can think about other things. Thoughts precede all speech acts, and these thoughts pop up in our heads even in the absence of any stimulus. Do thoughts precede all speech acts? The ability to think precedes the ability to talk about them. Thought precedes meaningful referential communication. But it does not precede all speech acts. Only meaningful referential communication. Okay, so ye out hai, one is out. The ability to think about objects precedes the development of human communication. ये तो बोला है कि this precedes human communication, not general speech. 2 is looking good. Thoughts are essential to communication and only humans have the ability. Only humans. Is that mentioned? Right? Humans का तो कुछ ये कौन किसके दिमाग में thoughts आ रहा है not mentioned. So 3 is out. Displays reference is particular to humans and thoughts pop into our heads for no real reason. क्या reason से आया है नहीं आया है we don't know. This is more about without their presence we can think about it. ऐसा नहीं कि without reason. Right? So answer here is option 2. Great. Physics is a pure science that seeks to understand the behavior of matter without regard to whether it will afford any practical benefit. Engineering is the correlative applied science in which physical theories are put to some specific use, such as building a bridge or a nuclear reactor. Right? So physics is about studying the behavior with respect to any practical benefit, and engineering is when you can apply what you have learned. Engineers obviously rely heavily on the discoveries of physicists, but an engineer's knowledge of the world is not the same as the physicist's knowledge. In fact, an engineer know-how will often depend on physical theories that from the point of view of pure physics are false. Okay, so the knowledge depends on some theories that basically if you look at proper pure physics, those theories are false. There are some reasons for this. First, theories that are false in the purest and strictest sense are still sometimes very good approximations. Even if they are false, they still give a good idea about what the theory is. And often have the added virtue of being much easier to work with. Okay, sometimes the true theories apply only under highly idealized conditions, which can only be created under controlled experimental situations. The engineer finds that in the real world, theories rejected by physicists yield more accurate predictions than the ones they accept. So, right controlled experimental situations mein work karta hai, they yield more accurate predictions than the ones that pure physicists accept. The unique task is to identify उसका task क्या है इसके बारे में नहीं. This is about the difference between an engineer and a physicist and how a physicist can work with approximation. It is not what is the task of an engineer. The relationship is strictly linear with the pure science directing applied science and never the other way around. Never the other way around. ये कहाँ पे बोला है? Never. So 2 is also out. Though engineering draws heavily from pure science, it contributes to knowledge by incorporating the constraints and conditions in the real world. So यहाँ पे दिया है कि they are very good approximations and they are ideal to work with. So 3 is good. There's no error in 3. Where's the pen? Okay. Engineering and physics fundamentally differ on matters. No, they don't differ on such matters. They are just engineers just work with approximation. So answer is option 3. His idea to use sign language was not a completely new idea, as Native Americans used hand gestures to communicate with other tribes. Another Greek philosopher, Aristotle, for example, observed that men who are deaf are incapable of speech. People who are born deaf were denied the right to sign a will, as they were presumed to understand nothing because it was not possible that they have been able to learn to read or write. Pushback against this prejudice began in the 16th century when Pedro created a formal sign language for the hearing impaired. For millennia, people with hearing impairments encountered marginalization because it was believed that language could only be learned by hearing the spoken word. So if you are deaf, you are not supposed to have any understanding of things, right? Now you can see कि Pedro का जो formal language है, 4-1 का there is definitely a connection. Correct? His idea. So this is not the odd one out. This is not the odd one out. Right? For millennia, people were encountered, could only be heard. So 2 and 5 are also connected, where people were born deaf, were not supposed to understand anything, and only can be learned by hearing the spoken word. So 3 and 5 are also connected. What is not connected is 2. Ancient Greek philosopher का क्या सोच है here doesn't help, right? Great guys, next. One argument is that actors do not fit within a single well-defined category, may suffer an illegitimacy discount. Others believe that complex identities confuse audiences about an organization's role or purpose. Some organizations have complex and multidimensional identities that span or combine categories, while other organizations possess narrow identities. Identity is one of the most important features of organizations, but there exist opposing views among sociologists about how identity affects organizational performance. Those who think that complex identities are beneficial point to the strategic advantages of ambiguity and organizations' potential to differentiate themselves from competitors. Okay, so ये तो अच्छा beginning है कि there exist opposing views. Then you have one argument is that actors, others believe. So you may think कि 1 or 2 are connected, पर one argument के साथ दूसरा argument चाहिए. So this 2, 3, 5 are connected. Okay, those who think, others believe, some organizations have. 2, 3, 5 are connected. 4 is a good introduction. ये illegitimacy discount, ये do not actors, ये all this is completely different from everything else. So answer is option 1. Stat signaled something measurable while Matic advertised free labor, but Tron above all indicated control. It was a totem of high modernism, the intellectual and cultural mode that decreed no process or phenomenon was too complex to be grasped, managed and optimized. Like the heraldic shields of ancient knights, these morphemes were painted onto the names of scientific technologies to proclaim one's history and achievements to friends and enemies alike. So, what are these morphemes? It's these suffixes. Okay, so the historian Robert Proctor calls the suffix tron along with matic and stat embodied symbols. So you can see how 1, 3 and 4, they are all connected. To gain the suffix was to acquire, so even 5 goes with that. But here, what is a totem of high modernism? All that we don't know. So answer is option 2, which is not fitting in here. Right? Great. So let's look at some bonus questions. We have a passage here. This has been written by Richard Feynman. So one passage along with 6 questions. Let's do them. I promised to work but still begged that he couldn't teach me to draw. I wanted very much to learn to draw for a reason that I kept to myself. I wanted to convey an emotion I have about the beauty of the world. It's difficult to describe because it's an emotion. It's analogous to the feeling one has in religion that has to do with a God that controls everything in the universe. There's a generality aspect that you feel when you think about how things that appear so different and behave so differently are all run behind the scenes by the same organization, the same physical laws. So he wanted to learn how to draw because he wanted to convey the beauty of the world, right? Because the beauty is difficult to express, it's an emotion. So he thought by drawing he'll be able to express it. And he really finds the fact that a God controls everything quite beautiful. It's an appreciation of the mathematical beauty of nature, of how she works inside. A realization that the phenomena we see result from the complexity of the inner workings between atoms, a feeling of how dramatic and wonderful it is. It is a feeling of awe, of scientific awe, which I felt could be communicated through a drawing to someone who also had the same emotion. It could remind him for a moment of this feeling about the glories of the universe. Jerry turned out to be a very good teacher. He told me first to go home and draw anything. So I tried to draw a shoe. Then I tried to draw a flower in a pot. It was a mess. Okay. So the drawing that he says, right, appreciation of how nature works, correct? All that can give us a feeling of scientific awe, which Feynman wanted to communicate to the world. Okay. The next time we met, I showed him my attempts. Oh, look, he said, you see around in back here, the line of the flower pot doesn't touch the leaf. I had meant the line to come up to the leaf, but it was not reaching. That's very good. It's a way of showing depth. That's very clever of you. And the fact that you don't make all lines the same thickness, which I didn't mean to do, is good. A drawing with all the lines the same thickness is dull. It continued like that. Everything that I thought was a mistake, he used to teach me something in a positive way. He never said it was wrong. He never put me down. So I kept on trying and I gradually got a little better, but I was never happy, never satisfied. Now let's look at questions. In the passage, the word organization. So organization is right here at the top. Correct? Behind the scenes by the same organization. Right? So that organization is the organization of physical laws. So answer is rules of physics. Which of the following experiences is closest to what the author describes as dramatic and wonderful? So what is dramatic and wonderful here? The appreciation of beauty of nature, right? And scientific awe, complexity of inner working, scientific law. So it's proving something to do with science, right? It's not creating a beautiful sculpture. It's not teaching music. It's either proving a physical law or appreciating the power of physical laws in nature and appreciating the beauty. So answer is A. What assumption does the author make about the appreciation of art? It comes only through the experience? No, you can appreciate art without creating art. It is enhanced by having experiences similar to those that inspired the artist. Is it enhanced by that, guys? If the artist is feeling that the world is beautiful and wants to convey it, then it is enhanced by that experience of the artist. It is not as important. No, science is important. It is difficult. That is also not mentioned कि scientist है या नहीं है उसका कुछ लेना देना नहीं है. So answer is option B. Great. Moving on. If Jerry is really a very good teacher in the way that the author suggests, what would he most likely have done if the author had drawn the flower pot with lines of all the same thickness? He would have shown how lines of same thickness, right, gives a different quality only. Right? So he will not show how to vary. He never shows how to change, right? How line thickness affects the quality. Perhaps he has already shown that, correct? I've mentioned that the drawing was done, he would never do that. He would find something positive about something else. So answer is option D. The author suggests that the way of showing depth is actually, did he intend to show it? Did he intend to draw that line? No. So it was unintentional, right? It was not unattractive or difficult to accomplish, not characteristic Vinay. It was just something that the author did not intend. I had meant. Okay, so he didn't intend the whole final output. In what way was the author never satisfied? He was never satisfied with his drawing because he could not convey his feelings about the beauty of the world, right? So he was never able to draw. Long term, God knows whether he was able to draw or not. He was not able to replicate his teacher's talent. That also we don't know. Okay, how he behaved with his own students. He has never fully appreciated. No, he appreciated the talent of his teacher. He was never able to convey adequately. Right? So answer is option B. Right in the beginning, it is mentioned that he learned drawing to convey beauty of the world. Some fill in the blanks, guys. Rather than giving Sandra thoughtful and useful advice, her father admonished her, scolded her with hollow cliches. Matlab, completely unhelpful. So if it is unhelpful and the platitudes are also unhelpful, flamboyant means stylish, homogeneous means similar to each other. Irate means something that irritates. Inane is something that is silly and is not helpful. So answer is option B. Inane. Rather than accepting the theory unquestioningly, Deborah regarded it with question, right? She was doubtful about it. So she was not regarded it with responsibility, with ignorance, with mirth. Mirth is humor. No. She regarded it with skepticism. She didn't believe it completely. Maintaining a courageous dash even while in prison, right? So he must have maintained courageous, positive word. Nelson Mandela spent years trying to convince others that his fight against apartheid was worthwhile. So was not hopeless. I want a word that signifies hopeless. So worthwhile signifies hope. Futile is best. Treacherous has to do with cheating. Premeditated means pehle se. You just want to show that it is not hopeless, right? So best is courageous, hope, and futile. Option C. The dash of construction near the building rendered the school far less. So construction का आवाज होता है, right? So it can be racket, din, noise. And school में पढ़ाई कम होती है noise से. Right? So this rendered the school far less capable of learning, I would say, right? So not averse, far less conducive. Answer is option A. Although no real problem in physics can be solved, an approximate solution by a simplified method is sufficient so long as the complicating factors are less, right? So not large, not difficult. This is minimal or negligible. So although no real problem can be solved exactly, though exactly and approximately will go as opposites also, right? So answer is option C. The dash of a civil war depends on the factions' access to martial resources. The conflict may drag on for years, so long as each side has sufficient ammunition to continue fighting. So ammunition here is not skill, it is means. And the duration, right? So answer is option C. Great, guys. Let's do some more passages. According to the passage, so first let's read the passage. Jung was never dogmatic as to a single cause of schizophrenia, although he inclined to the belief that a psychologist rather than a physical origin was probable. He was also modest in his therapeutic claims, recognizing that only a limited number of cases responded to analysis and that partial alleviation was more common than cure. Jung considered that there were many schizophrenics who never came near a mental hospital. If such people consulted him, he was cautious and sometimes dismissed them without attempting psychoanalysis. Jung was one of the first to recognize that a psychotic episode could be precipitated by psychoanalysis. Okay, so he was never traditional कि schizophrenia का एक ही cause होता है. He thought that there are a lot of causes possible, and he felt कि psychoanalysis करने से कभी-कभी psychotic episode बाहर भी आते हैं. So, what would Jung most likely agree with? Schizophrenia is much more common than most psychologists acknowledge. Is that true? He was only a limited number of cases responded to analysis who never came. So ये तो clearly दिया है कि किसी को पता नहीं है psychologist acknowledge. As a single common cause, no, he's against it. Is not helpful. ऐसा भी नहीं है. Might be caused, not at all. So answer here is option A. As it is used, precipitated by. Where is precipitated? It is caused by or precipitated by psychoanalysis, right? It's not cured, it is not responsive, right? It is hastened by or caused by. Jaldi ho jata hai. Great, next passage. The tragic and the dramatic, it is said, are universal. As a distance of centuries, we still grieve at the tribulations of Oedipus and Oreste. And even without sharing the ideology of Homer, we are distressed by the tragedy of Emma Bovary. The comic, on the other hand, seems bound to its time, socially cultural anthropology. We understand the drama of the protagonist of Rashomon, but we don't understand when and why the Japanese laugh. It is an effort to find Aristophanes' comic, and it takes more culture to laugh at Rabelais than it does to weep at the death of the paladin Orlando. Oh. 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 Okay. So basically, जब भी tragedy होता है, that is something that is common to everyone. It's universal. पर comedy समझने के लिए you need to be in that time, in that place. Otherwise, you will not understand comedy. So, which of the following would the author consider most difficult for a modern American to find humorous? Modern American. So, it's not about animals who talk. Correct? Gangsters set in Chicago, maybe. We don't know which. This is modern America. So, it's about Chicago gangsters, so of course. पर एक दूसरा time, एक दूसरा continent is not going to work. So, answer is option C. The effort to which the author refers. Where do we have effort? It is an effort to find Aristophanes' comic. So we find it difficult. So a lot of us have to work at it. Right? Great. Let's look at some grammar now. The children couldn't hardly believe their eyes. So the children could hardly believe their eyes, not couldn't. So answer is option B. The anthology consists mostly the work of modern poets, but it also includes a few significant older works as well. Right? So, but it includes is also good. Okay. The coach worked hard and long into the night to prepare. So to prepare वाला एक ही option है, option B. That's your answer. Although usually unfloppable, even in front of a crowd. Who is in front of a crowd always? Carla, not her anxiety. So Carla has to come alone in the front. A is out, B is out. Being overwhelmed? No, she was overwhelmed, not being overwhelmed. So answer is option D. Those students who sit through her lectures day after day, having been numbed into thinking, right? So they have been numbed, not having been numbed, because they've been sitting for so long. So answer is option C. Swimming in the deepest part of the lake, the current pushed Justin farther from shore. So the current pushed Justin farther from shore. Who was swimming in the deepest part of the lake? Was the current swimming? No, it was not the push of the current. It was not the current. It was Justin who was swimming, right? So justice by the current was pushed further. No, justice was pushed further by the current. So answer is option C. Writing a good 20-page research paper is more difficult than writing. So writing will be compared to writing. So answer is option C. If we had not stopped for gas, we would have arrived in time, right? So ये stopping for gas is before arriving. तो past perfect आएगा यहाँ पे. So answer is option A. The spectator watched agape, मतलब मुंह खोल के, surprise होके. Agape, they could not believe what they were seeing on the playing field. Correct? So this is about punctuation now. तो कोलन नहीं आएगा, कॉमा आएगा, right? Therefore, because they are watching agape नहीं होगा. So answer is option A. The evidence for clairvoyance has never been persuasive, and many people continue to believe that it is a widespread phenomenon. तो अगर ये persuasive नहीं है तो why should people continue to believe? And नहीं आएगा ना यहाँ पे, but आएगा. तो but आएगा nevertheless से. So answer is nevertheless. The same theories that explain the atom reveals how deeply the common and the bizarre are entwined in the physical world. Okay, so the strange theories that explain the atom, right, also reveal, because it is theories, not reveals. So answer is C or D. Okay, reveal how the common and the bizarre are so, how deeply are entwined. So entwined deeply nahi hoga, how deeply they are entwined. Answer has to be option D. The Transportation Board announced their anonymous approval of the new contract. पर board तो singular है. So it will take it, not there. Okay. It's announced their unanimous approval, not anonymous approval. So answer is option D. Great guys, here is your puzzle. For next week, 3 points ABC are chosen at random such that OABC forms a quadrilateral. कैसा भी वो shape हो सकता है. Now you find the midpoints and you show that this is going to be a parallelogram, right? This has to be a parallelogram, right, guys? So, guys, I hope you enjoyed the session. I'll see you again when we start looking at CAT 2019 Slot 1K DILR sessions. I'll see you on Thursday, right, when we cover these sessions, guys. Also, guys, I hope to see you on the National Scholarship Test. This Sunday, we have the LRDI section. I hope you take the test. I hope you get 5,000 rupees ke vouchers. And I hope you do well in your CAT also with this, right? Besides that, as I already have mentioned, we have started an absolute batch for CAT 2021. So I am going to take LR and it's going to start from November 11th. अभी कल से ही start होगा, परसों भी नहीं. कल से ही we are starting off this LR. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We are going to start off with easy sets, but we are going to make things a little more difficult as we go along. Right, guys? So, great. I hope you try out the platform. See, if you don't try it out, you'll not realize what a great difference it will make to your learning, right? So, you have lectures that are taken live where you get great opportunities for interacting with educators. During the lecture, you can go for a live poll, a leaderboard, right? So there are a lot of advantages once you subscribe to Unacademy. With subscription to go for, well, if you're focused on CAT 20, guys, then I would recommend that you go for the 6-month project, because after the CAT, there is the XAT, there is the NMAT, SNAP. If you're not taking too many tests, then you may want to go for a 3-month subscription. But there is anyways hardly that much of a difference, right? You should look at your 6-month, in fact, per month you'll be paying less, correct? And of course, we'll be there to guide you for your GDPI as well. If you are confused between CAT 20 and CAT 21, or if you are completely focused कि अगले साल आपको CAT लेना है, then you can go for the 2-year subscription, right? Do use my code Munira10 to get a great discount. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.